everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Musa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Rod. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Please introduce yourself and the name of your business.
Yes, sir. So like you mentioned, Musa Hakim Jr., and the name of my business is Lazy Moose Company.
Awesome. We so look forward to learning more about your business. But before that, we want to learn a little bit more about you. So please share with us a little bit about your story, Musa.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally. I always have to throw that out there. People from Cleveland are very happy that we're from Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually snowing here right now, so not super happy, but always grateful. So I went to a boarding school for high school in California, but before that, I was at a public charter school here in Cleveland. I'm actually, I'll get into this, I'm sure, a bit later, but I'm actually the first alumnus on the board at that public charter school as well now.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the highest performing public charter school networks in the state. From there, I went to Cate School, Cate School in Carpinteria, California.
Mm-hmm.
It's a private day and boarding school, one of the highest performing boarding schools in the world. It was a great experience, got immersed in a lot of different cultures, a lot of different great academic opportunities, and a lot of different leadership opportunities as well. Really, I'm a Gen Z, so I was born in the age of social media. We saw it unfold really, really quickly. I remember being in middle school and we were, it was Facebook, Instagram kind of popped up.
Mm-hmm.
When I was an eighth grader, Snapchat as well, and then in high school it was pretty much that was how we lived and interacted with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So from Cate, I came back home to Cleveland actually, and I went to Case Western Reserve University. I graduated back in 2021 with a degree. This is a bit wordy, so forgive me, but I have a bachelor's of science and a bachelor's in science and engineering. Um, it's a focus on solid state physics and electronic energy conversion for material science and engineering. So I'm both a scientist and an engineer, with a real focus on a lot of the devices that power, some of the more interesting industries that we see today: AI, blockchain, quantum computing, semiconductor. That was what I studied in school, literally down to the things that make up atoms was what we studied in school. So a lot of days crying and confused, trying to figure out, what physics meant. You get into these classes, everything you learned in high school is a lie. It's not real physics, and you're like, well, what do I do now? But yeah, so like that challenge, and it's very much so fun to me. I really enjoy learning. Been a lifelong learner, but I've also really been interested in business since I was young. I used to sell parking spaces, and when we used to do this, they used to have this family unity day picnic. If you're from the Cleveland area, you know this, but the family unity day picnic,
Mm-hmm.
I would sell parking spaces in front of our house. So I've always had the entrepreneurial mindset, always been really interested in the ideas of supply and demand. And yeah, back in 2021, learning a lot about the world of blockchain and cryptocurrency. NBA Top Shot was one of the first big products that I heard about in the space. Obviously, Bitcoin was at the time starting to make a name for itself. So yeah, I decided to take a leap of faith. I've been working at the company I was at. I was at SwageLock for I think about a month before I was like, I think I want to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And worked at SwageLock, helped start an initiative here in Cleveland called Futureland. We've had over 10,000 attendees over the last 3 years since it was founded. Myself and a few other individuals. I was the youngest person and part of that founding team with Futureland. We work with the city of Cleveland in the mayor's office. We worked at Jumpstart Ventures, which is one of the big VC arms out here in Northeast Ohio. I also worked with Breakthrough at the time for CEO search and some of their alumni efforts. So always been involved in the community, wearing multiple hats beside engineering. But last year, I thought it was the time to go full stop with the business.
Mm-hmm.
After 3 years at SwageLock and take all the hats off and put on one big hat and really make it happen.
Awesome. I definitely appreciate that. I wanted to just take a step back and talk about Cate, because that is going from Cleveland to California. Was it sports, or you were just that high in academia that they said, come on out here to one of the best
Yeah.
boarding schools? Tell us how you got out there.
Yeah, so always was smart in school, always, performed well in school. I love reading. I still love reading. I have a couple of books, in close proximity at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I've the two I have close is See You at the Top and Think and Grow Rich, the Black edition. Those are the ones I have close to me right now. I can see, but
Mm-hmm.
always been a really a lifelong reader. I took the IC exam, which is the independent school entrance exam.
Mm-hmm.
That's the exam you take for a lot of the independent private schools across the country. I scored really well on that exam. I got all eights and nines, which is the highest you can get. And from there, I was a better chance scholar. So a
Okay.
better chance connects students like me across the country to these private day and boarding schools. A better chance you fill out their application and they send your application off to the schools and based on your profile. So Kate School was one of the schools that my profile fit. They loved me. They really wanted me to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I flew out for what they call revisit day. It was actually my first visit, but they call it revisit day. Um, I love the school. I love the community. I love the community. Obviously, it's in Santa Barbara, California. So coming from Cleveland, it wasn't really much of a competition when it came to
Mm-hmm.
the environment and the weather.
Right.
We were, I think a mile from the beach, right off the Pacific Coast Highway. So it was such a great opportunity. But yeah, it was really, seeing an opportunity at a young age. I wanted to go to Phillips Exeter, which is like the Harvard of boarding schools, Harvard of high schools, really. And that was how I learned about the world of boarding schools. I saw an opportunity. I knew I wanted to, chase great academic success and great life success. So I took the opportunity and was blessed with the chance to see it fulfilled.
Yes. Also, I definitely appreciate you sharing that because, again, I had never heard of that school before, but I could tell the pride that you had when you were explaining it. I just wanted you to go in a little bit more depth. So you were at this company for about a month. And then you
Mhm.
said, hey, look, my entrepreneurial spirit began to really flow, and you were going to move on to something else.
Mhm.
Musa, was there a specific event that happened that made you say, you know what, I am going to take off all these hats, put on this one big hat, burn the ship, and go all in on my business? Was it a specific event that helped you with that?
Well, in the world of startups in particular, but really all early entrepreneurship, they talk about stacking up those small victories.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give a quick story. So I was at Swagelock for 3 years, and it was in September of 2021 when I had the idea to start the business after graduating in May. So I kind of was, it was percolating around right after I graduated, and I was like, nah. But, with time, you kind of get a bit more confidence. And so I was at an event, actually, Mayor Justin Bibb. I'm a huge supporter of Justin and what he does. And he's definitely done a lot of great work here in the city of Cleveland. So I was at an event supporting him, and I ran into a woman there, Carol Caruso, and I gave my elevator pitch. I had what they call a dollar and a dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey, this is what we're working on at the time. We're really interested in the world of non-fungible tokens. I can explain that a bit more in depth because most people have never heard the words non-fungible or fungible before. So that's always a good explainer course for people. But yeah, effectively because I studied the hardware, I knew what was coming. So I talked to Carol and she connected me with Ray Leach at Jumpstart, and that was the best early small victory you could get because Ray Leach was the founder and CEO at Jumpstart.
Okay.
So from there, I knew, hey, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a firm believer um, in God and the nature of the divine. I knew that that was a first sign of that I was going in the right direction. However, in 2024, so this was last year, I kind of hit a roadblock. We were consulting, but the world of cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFTs, it really hit a wall. There were some legislative issues. There were also a lot of really, really major multi-billion dollar disasters that people had seen. The biggest one obviously being FTX.
Mm-hmm.
Terra Luna is another example. So at the time, people just weren't really interested in it. But again, having grown up in the world of social media, I was seeing a lot about the negative effects of social media and a lot of the legislation that was coming out about social media. And I built up this network. I'd been going around, to DC, to New York, speaking with people at conferences, speaking at conferences, things like that. And I knew that the opportunity was right, but it was kind of seeing the cryptocurrency market literally collapse and fall apart. I knew that we had to pivot towards something that, regardless of the market performance, people would want to use the technology.
Mm-hmm.
So really watching like the whole FTX, Terra Luna thing happen, and then being in the industry, being involved with Futureland early on, I knew that I was headed in the right direction, but it was a big push. And this is also an interesting one, but I knew at the time that it would happen, and then it kind of changed a little bit. But the presidential election was going to be a big decider for me as well. The previous administration, everyone believes in the technology behind blockchain, but a lot of people don't believe in the commercialization of it. And that's when it comes to business, those are two key elements. You have to have belief in the product, and you also have to have an understanding how to commercialize it. The current administration is very big fans of the technology. They're really big fans of the push for technology. Here in America, that technology dominance is what was what saved me as a young person. Knowing what technologies were going to be valuable was what helped me choose my college career, and I have a very valuable degree. So those were some things like watching the market collapse and then seeing that the new president was going to push for the same technologies I've been building since I was, fresh out of college. He was going to push for those things. I knew that the time was right, and it was just a matter of, gritting your teeth and having that belief.
Awesome, awesome, man. That is magnificent that you've made the decision to step off the curb, get out there in the street a little bit and see what you can do. Now, tell us all about what it is that you've created and who's an ideal person to get in contact with that app.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll give a little bit of so like I said, we started in 2021. We were consulting. We were originally consulting, trying to bring people into the industry of blockchain. And that was how we started to talk with not just institutional, like potential institutional partners, but individual partners. So people that would be individual customers that would be using this technology. And there were a lot of key themes that kept coming up. People are overwhelmed by the amount of data that they have. There's information that comes from everywhere. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if it's when it came about, if it's still accurate, if it was a joke. There's so much ambiguity online these days. And there was also this urge from parents to really bridge the gap that they had with their teens. In specific, once you get over 18, it's kind of hard to get them to do what you want. But in that 13, 18 year band gap, when you still are able to really coach and parent your child, it was like they're in the wild, wild west. They have no insight on what their kids are doing. I always give the example, when I was growing up, my parents could always look out the window or look down the street and see who we were hanging out with. They could see the house.
Mm-hmm.
They knew the neighbor. Now it's online. You can't really get that access to individuals. So what we've created is effectively a system that will allow teens to connect their social media information and their profiles to inform the system of who that person is. We want to help them create, set, and accomplish goals that they can achieve that'll give them that real life boost that they need. It's not just about the dopamine hit that you get when you open up your page, you get a couple likes, when you refresh it, there's new reels or what have you, or new, I can't even remember the terms that kids use these days. I feel like it moves so quickly. New YouTube shorts, new TikToks, what have you. It's about real life. It's about connecting with people in your real life. It's about progressing yourself as a young contributor of society, and really growing into something that your parents are proud of. And for the parents, it's about alleviating that fear. Who is my child going to turn into? How are they being influenced? Are they okay? These were some of the biggest questions that I got from parents in the discovery process of trying to find customers to consult with. And it was, it's kind of one of those things where, you want to give people a solution to a problem, not a problem and beg them to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, we found a problem that you don't have. Like, can you pay me for it? The solution to it. And they're like, no, I don't even understand this problem. I don't resonate with it. And even if they did, do they understand the urgency of it? There's never, even now, there's never a conversation I have with anyone over the age of 10 where they don't understand the urgency of social media, and anyone over the age of 30 where they don't have a real fear of what social media does to their children. So particularly when it came to like suburban moms, working or at home suburban moms who oftentimes will have, more than one teen at home. They're responsible for kind of managing that real life and that digital life balance. They feel like the police. They can't connect with their teen. They're trying to, set these boundaries and these limits. I had a mother talk to me about, she's like, I'm trying to set up these limits for my child and they're using a VPN. And I started cracking up laughing. We were using VPNs in high school, right? So these are the tools that are like the way that the system is set up now, the tools aren't conducive to support. They're really conducive to addiction. And it's not the fault of the social media companies. It's not the fault of the teens. It's not the fault of the parents. It's our job. It's my job as an engineer to create the solution to the problem. And like I said, not try to spoon feed people a solution to a problem they don't actually have. So yeah, it was just from talking to people, and we really do feel like moms are going to be one of our key champions for the app because they understand the dynamic of that child. They've seen them grow and evolve and change, and it's that interjection of social media into their life that can really alter who they are. Like I think a lot about, even in small doses. I'll be online, and like I'm 26, I turn 27 in a few months, and I'll be online. I'm like, hey, I need to look up something. I need to, I'm working a lot with financials. I'm looking at, balance sheets, looking at some balance sheets videos, working on my skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I'm watching like Tom Brady highlights or like mansion tours or like cat videos. And I'm like, what was I on here for again? Like, why did I open the app? And I think it's that like accidental time loss that, in my opinion, is crippling America. And it's not just America; it's across the world. Obviously, I'm born and raised here, so I have a special feeling for Americans. But it's something that we all struggle with, and really being able to repurpose and redirect that time, that information, is what we're focused on. And I know that mothers out there will really resonate and feel this message because I know that they have a fear of what it does to their teens, and in some cases, what it does to them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Based off what you shared, that band from 13 to 18, is very important for them to get hooked up with you, as well as parents that are a little, or mothers that are over the age of 35, 40, somewhere in there, that have that fear. Now, the app in itself, so is it curating the content to keep them focused, or is it spying on them? Tell me what is helping to solve the problem of wasting time and satisfying that dopamine hit.
Exactly, exactly. That's a good point. I'll speak specifically on the spying piece, but I do want to explain, like, in simple terms, what the platform does. So, I grew up as a sports fan. I've always played sports. It's effectively an analytics tool. So, what it does is it's all opt-in based. So,
Mm-hmm.
teens and their parents, if you're on the platform, you're choosing to be there. If you're having your data read, you're choosing to have it read. You will sign in to the app, create an account. And then you can also sign in to whatever social platforms that you use. We have Amazon, Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever social platform that you're being influenced by, wherever you're communicating with people. And for the teens, there's multiple different experiences. So there's going to be one for the teens, one for the parents. And if you're like a school administrator, it's a similar experience as a parent. The teens, they have what is the tiny button. It looks like a crystal ball. They're able to interact with it, and they can give it, hey, my goal is to read 3 new books by the end of this month.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real life goal. So then it'll take what their online habits and activities are, their online influence. It'll read, hey, this is the type of content you're taking in. So, hey, Musa, you were supposed to be, in the financial modeling category of content, but you ended up in the NFL highlights category of content. Why is that? What were you thinking about during that time frame? It'll dialogue with them using a large language model to really give them inputs to their life and how they can accomplish the goals that they set. Really, the platform, to put it simply, we help teens set and accomplish goals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the parents, we also give them a next level insight that they don't currently really have access to now, in the same way as like analytics, right? Everyone doesn't like analytics, but you can't argue with the fact that it does help you to understand where you stand. Human beings, we have certain innate characteristics that we have, And one of those is our ability to see, process where we are and how we feel about things to make decisions. We're really great makers of decisions. We're really bad at remembering things and seeing, billions of different, pieces of information and then being able to process it. So for the parents, we simplify that process down. They can usually take 10 minutes a day, maybe even for the whole week, to look through, hey, when is my child online? What mood is their online experience curating for them? Right? If you just had a breakup and you're 15 and you're listening to, sad songs for 3 days straight, your parent may never know that. They may never know the trajectory that your emotions are being taken by these algorithms. And again, it's not the fault of the social media. We're not competing with social media. We're really competing with these outdated parenting practices that really aren't able to be beneficial in the current day. So for the parent, they get this check-in, this snapshot of what their child is up to. And I want to go back really quickly before I wrap this up to the spying piece. We're not allowing parents to spy on their teens.
Hmm.
We're allowing the parent to collaborate with their teen to raise them. Growing up, I told my parents at a very young age I wanted to go to boarding school. And my parents were like, "What? You want to do what?
Hmm.
Where are you going?" Where, like, there was all these questions that we had to go through. And look at me now. I ended up where I wanted to go. My parents are very proud of me. They're very happy with what I've been able to do. I was able to help my brother, through my introduction to the school, understand the prospects of what higher education looks like. So if we're able to provide parents and teens that same strategy of setting and accomplishing these goals using the information that they collect and it's collected about them online, and for the parents, hey, just take 10 minutes. You can kind of get a scouting report on what your team's doing online, how this online activity is impacting their real life goals, where is their alignment. It'll help them drive conversation pieces. And what effectively we're trying to save and make new time for people and help parents and their teens manage their relationship that they have with one another.
Yeah, thank you so much for explaining because now it doesn't seem like spying. What it seems like is a collaboration to get your true goals accomplished. I can see how the games on there or the scrolling of the YouTube shorts can just eat that time up. And this kind of puts bumper guards on it, using bowling as an example of how to keep them to where they need to be because it can go left for 35 minutes and then you're off and you didn't get to read that book on how to make cordon bleu or whatever you're trying to make. This just keeps you focused. So I definitely appreciate you explaining that because again, a kid's gonna be like, "Oh, you're spying on me." And a parent might be like, "Hey, I'm able to spy on," but no, it's not that. We have goals we want to get accomplished, and this is helping us to stay inbound. So thanks for elaborating on that a little bit more. Now,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as you're going forward into the future, I know this is what you have created now. Let's take a idea of 5 years from now. Where do you see the platform being, or where do you want it to be in 5 years from this point?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we want to stick true to the mission here, which is to really bridge, and sometime in the space we call it phygital. We want to bridge the physical and digital world for people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll talk about like how the industry's really unfolded from like a macro perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of zoom down to the micro really quickly.
Thanks.
If you look at things such as artificial intelligence, VR, AR, XR, so virtual reality, artificial reality, and what's effectively like a mix between those two, which is XR. You look at blockchain, cryptocurrency. These are all industries that are growing and developing, but there is not a real a vehicle or medium for people to experience those things that's akin to what we experience now.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're looking to do is be that bridge. We want to introduce, that's the first and foremost mission from a technology standpoint, is to really bridge the gap for people to be able to better use and understand these advanced technologies. That's why we want to start with teens so that they can understand, hey, when I interact with this large language model, and I this is what it means to interact with a large language model. This is what it means to prompt it to give me what I want and to understand why it will not, right? We're in control. Human beings are in control, not the computers. And it's a funny joke to say now. In 5 years, there may be a bit more urgent conversation, and we want to
Hmm.
give young people the tools to begin that process. That's the first thing. That's me as they call me Unc now. I do have two nieces, but I guess once you turn 24, you're Unc these days. As Unc, like that's what I'm focused on. I want to make sure these kids understand how to use the technologies that are going to be dominating their life.
Hmm.
From a micro standpoint, we want to improve the relationship between teens and their parents. We want to have parents that feel like they can work with their child to get to a point where the parent is happy, they're satisfied. If their child is still at home, they have a pathway of getting out of the home, of being a real contributing member of society. And for the teens, it's that dopamine hit of being successful in real life. That's what people are actually chasing. When you fall down this rabbit hole online and you're on, and again, this is me speaking from experience, either from my own experience or experiences of my friends, it can get very dark at times because you're working through a psychological issue or a psychological challenge, and it's being expressed or being satisfied through a digital experience, two things that you cannot feel or see. We can feel We think that we can feel, how a YouTube video impacts us, but we really can't. It's not the same thing as a human's touch,
Hmm.
as a hug, as seeing your family at Thanksgiving, right? These aren't experiences that are material and that impacts young people's minds. We want to give them the ability to set and accomplish real life goals so that, users, when they were on the platform at 14, 15, 5 years from now, when they're, working their first job, when they're freshmen and sophomores at college, when they're, have some IT tech job through a certification that they got, right? If they're starting their first college game at a Division 1 school, we want them to say, hey, I was able to save 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours per day because I knew what was going on. I saw that, hey, I'm online, watching these videos when really I want to talk with my parents. I want to hang out with my younger brother. I want to connect with my teacher at school. I want to ask these questions to my guidance counselor, but I'm not equipped to be able to do those things yet. We want to give them the digital autonomy to make real life autonomy possible. And I do worry about that. I do worry about, they call us like there's a lot of nicknames for this generation, the cupcake generation, the instant oatmeal generation. There's a lot of different things. And I do worry about that. I worry about, you know, how much resilience we have. I work a lot in the space of, international policy and things like that. And it is a global race that we're in. And I do worry about the future of the American youth because we don't have that same core resilience that our parents and our grandparents had. And I think that because of the tools that we've been given have made our life easier, we have to figure out how to make those tools improve our life, not diminish the quality of our life through the ease. So that's where I imagine us in the future, having teens, walk up to me, walk up to our team members and say, hey, we've been able to really substantially change our life trajectory. We've been able at the same time, I've accomplished 1,000 goals through using your platform. How much more impactful is that on your life to accomplish goals? How much better will you actually feel? Not this 15-minute feeling of, I feel like when you wake up in the morning and you're like, hey, I want to make my bed every morning. And you're telling the app, I wake up in the morning, it's cold, I don't want to get out of bed. And then I wake up, I end up late and I don't make my bed. And the app's like, well, try this, try that. And then you talk to your parent. You're like, hey, I've been using the app and it's telling me that, maybe I should wake up 5 minutes earlier, but I can't. Can you knock on my door, 5 minutes earlier so I can get up and I can make my bed? That's real life changing. That's what people are investing trillions of dollars into AI, into quantum computing, into the semiconductor industry for. It's to change the real life that we inhabit, not just the digital life.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. You're doing a great job of explaining what it is that you do and more importantly, how you're trying to help people. Because I tell everyone you have to have a why. And you can see your why is to try to help the youth as they go up because they're going to be adults in the future and they can make decisions. And, we want to try to help them to make the best decisions. Now, I am confident, Musa, over your journey, going all the way out there to California, going to the great school, getting back here, graduating from school, and then working with that company, that you have just developed some business skills, some best practices that have helped you to be successful now. Do you mind sharing with the audience that's watching some of those business skills that they can possibly add to their mix and try to reach towards that same success?
Yeah, I have three kind of top of mind. I would say the first is um, they always say like the customer is always right. You need to like the customer is first and foremost. Understanding what your customer needs is the fastest pathway to profit. If you don't understand what your customer needs, so I'll give you an example right now. Obviously, I'm on a school board. This is outside of my business. Our customers are the students. How do students learn best? How can we get students to perform well on their standardized tests, on their exams? Why aren't they performing? These are the questions that you want to be obsessed with. It's not about how you can, reduce spending by 5%. It's not about how you can increase, your margin. It's not how you can bring in better people. It's about the customer. The customer is the North Star to all of these other questions that you have. That's how you hire great people. You hire great people that are as obsessed with the customer and the customer's problems as you are. I would say the second piece is you really have this is something a lot of business owners I don't think understand until it's too late. You have to understand the political landscape. So, our political landscape is what creates the business environment because the way money flows is that the government will say, "Hey, this is our fiscal." The president will say, "This is our priority. This is some executive order. This is the direction that the American executive office would like to go when it comes to these policies." From there, everyone else is either going to be in support of or against that specific policy. That's going to drive how you make financial decisions within your company, but it's also going to drive how your consumers spend, how your investors want to spend, how prospective investors want to spend, how your bank's going to prioritize their interest rates, their loaning process, their granting process. It impacts everything. That was something that I got exposed to early on outside of business that when I got into business, I was so used to, being in the world of lobbying, being in the world of policy making, being in the world of advocacy, that it was something that was natural for me. And it's giving me a leg up. I'm always aware of what's coming up next within our business. So it's not necessarily pivoting, we're just moving along. Even when I said earlier that we pivoted, I always wanted to have something that would be a medium for people to use NFTs, to use blockchain, to use cryptocurrency, as opposed to just a surface for them to use it. The third thing, and I think this is something that um, is definitely very hard to do, but you have to have fun in the collaboration of business. So when I was at Swage, I'm so grateful for my time at SwageLock. SwageLock, I always joke, SwageLock is probably like they're about like $3 billion company. You could probably sell it for double, even triple because of how critical it is to the industries that they serve.
Mm-hmm.
Oil and gas, healthcare, semiconductor. One of the powerful pieces at SwageLock was how well we collaborated, whether it be, the individuals on the shop floor in the manufacturing facilities, coming in at 4 or 5 in the morning, working 10, 12-hour shifts as a part of overtime, to their safety teams, making sure that they are informed and safe and feel as though they can communicate to the human resources department, informing them of how they can, better their careers, how they can move from, shop floor position A to, overnight supervisor. And it's the engineering teams working with the product managers, working with the marketing team to figure out, hey, this is the pain point of the customers. We had when I was at Swayslock, the Russia-Ukraine war broke out. That impacted us greatly because we had distributorships in both of those regions. So being able to talk to our distributors who are not affiliated with the organization, but have that dialogue to say, hey, this is what we're facing, this is what we go through. If you can't collaborate and you can't have fun with that collaboration, your organization is going to be pigeonholed to the group that's having the most fun and getting the most done. So
Mm-hmm.
all the other parts of the organization aren't going to reap the benefits of that because people aren't excited to come to work. Like, you don't, we spend most, as Americans, we spend all of our life at work. We spend 8 hours a day. You spend probably an hour on both ends getting to work. You probably spend another 35 minutes to an hour decompressing before and after work. That's almost 12 to 14 hours of your entire day. You have to sleep, and then what's left? Family time, relaxation time. We spend a lot of time at work. So if you don't feel fulfilled and collaborative at that experience, it'll drain people, it'll decrease productivity. So those are the three things I would say that you need to have in mind, whether you're an employee, an individual contributor, a manager, or a CEO. You need to remember that those are some of the key elements of making a successful business.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really do like your first point with the customer because, hey, look, if you can figure out how to best serve them, everything else can start to fall in line. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that. Now, we've talked a lot about your journey. We talked about the business, the future of the business, and definitely appreciate you sharing those business skills. But now I just want to take a second and talk about Musa. Now, let's just say that you're able to get the parents and the kids to get together and focus on those goals, and they're doing it, and you're getting hundreds of millions of people on your app, and time and money is not an issue at all. What is it that Musa would do with his time?
What is it that I would do with my time? Largely a lot of the same things I do now. I'm very grateful for that. Obviously, I don't have. I'm definitely in the early stages of being a CEO and a startup CEO, so I definitely don't have money to blow, but I do focus on things that fulfill me, things that make me happy. I'm always outside, always walking. I love to take in the scenes. Like if you go outside every day, it's going to be a new day, not just from your own lived experience, but from the outside experience. Like yesterday, it was not snow everywhere. Now it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the small interactions you have with people really remind you of the humanity that we all, especially nowadays, I think we all fear has kind of gone away. Talking to someone, stopping and saying hello to your neighbor, those are the kind of things that make me fulfilled. Also, traveling. I get to travel a lot with my business. I never get to travel for personal. But that would be the first thing on my list. I actually have a like bucket list. I was doing some mentoring with some kids at a high school, John F. Kennedy High School here in Cleveland, and I was like, if y'all want to be successful in life, you have to have goals. You have to know where you're going, and you have to be able to check those things off so that when you accomplish it, you can say, hey, I'm moving where I want to go. I have Africa and Greece on my list of places that I want to go. I want to go all across the African continent and learn and immerse about the culture that I came from. But I'm also extremely fascinated in like world history and the progression of mankind, specifically in the modern day here in the West. Um, if I had to pick another thing, it would be more family time. That's actually the thing that I can't do right now.
Mm-hmm.
That is the hardest for me to process. I left, home when I was 12 years old, to go to high school. I was on my own. Obviously, I had friends. I have lifelong friends that I met throughout that process. But I was away from my family. When I came back to go to college, I was at Case Western. It's a very hard school. They definitely make us earn our degrees. You work, especially in the engineering department, you work and sleep. Um, or you don't get good grades. Those are your options. Like
Mm-hmm. Right, right. No partying.
there's not a lot of, yeah, exactly. There's no socializing with the family. There's no long calls. There's no, partying Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, like none of that. So just
Mm-hmm.
being able to have that quality time with my family. Like I said, I have two nieces.
Mm-hmm.
I have two younger siblings. They're actually students now at Breakthrough, which is also crazy to think about. But being able to see them, go through and go through life and be able to be there for them. I didn't have an older brother. I had an older sister. I had a lot of great. I had my father in my life, which is also a blessing. I had a lot of great male role models. A lot of great female role models, but being able to be that for my siblings is also, and my cousins is important for me. So I would say that's number one, because it's more so the time that I feel like I have to sacrifice money you spend for business reasons, right? It's more so a tool, but time we can never get back. I could hit the lottery tomorrow. I can't hit the time lottery. I can't get back the moments that I missed, while I was at school, while I was studying for exams, while I was working on the business, while I'm on phone calls. That's what I look forward to the most, is being able to be there for my family, create and raise a family. Like, those are the things that I feel like, despite my career ambitions, that's what I was put here for, is to be able to, live in those moments.
Yeah, you definitely have a focus on the greater good, man. I can feel your how much you care about others and the focus on the future. You can just tell with you being on the board with the school, your app and what you're creating, trying to keep people focused. So I definitely appreciate you sharing those things with me. Now, if the audience is watching and they have more questions about the app, they have questions about your journey, or just, learning more about you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I try to keep it simple. I serve as a portal to our company, so you can always look me up on Google, Musa Hakim Jr. From there, you'll see my LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can find access to our company information, what we do, how we kind of what I've been doing. We've been, mentioning a couple publications involved with different organizations: CTA, SEPA, SCSP. Just a number of different organizations, think tanks, things like that. How we're able to, stay ahead of the curve when it comes to the technologies. And actually, through our conversation earlier, Rod, I did, before we started, I went on our LinkedIn, I updated our website link, so now you can access the app.
Nice.
It's still, I'm literally developing and changing it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but it's functional. You're able to go on there. It is in a demo state, so there's still some things that people have to, there's some bumps and bruises people have to work through. We're updating a lot of our documentation to outline that as well. But yeah, you look me up, and I try to keep, my name closely associated with the company, so that people are able to find, either, if they stumble upon me, they're able to find our company. And yeah, so LinkedIn is a great opportunity. We have our home, our main website is down right now for a couple of different reasons. There's obviously a lot. This may not be news to a lot of people, but there's a lot going on in the world of cyber. So because we've been developing the app and focusing on the app, we've taken our normal website offline. So our app is like our main sort of a point of contact for people. Well, we do have our LinkedIn page that people are able to access. Lazy Moose Company, in the LinkedIn search bar, or my name, you can find it through there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for coming on the show today. We truly do
Yeah.
appreciate your insights. And each guest that comes on, we always honor them by giving them the last word. So please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Be grateful. I would say be grateful. I'm, grateful for Rod for opening up his platform, to have to give me an opportunity to speak about my company. I'm grateful to God for being able to outline this path for me at such a young age, and just grateful for humanity as a whole. There's been times where, throughout my business journey, you're 5 seconds from giving up, and someone, pats you on the back or tells you how much they love what you're working on. So find that gratitude in what you do every day, and you'll never miss a day. You'll never feel like there's a day that you lost or you didn't get something done. Just be grateful for it. Be grateful for the journey. Be grateful for the day, and you go far.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us today, man.
Thanks for having me, Rod. This was awesome. This was great. I
Awesome.
like the setup too. I like the setup. It's like an outside, or like a porch kind of thing.
Yeah, we just try to keep it cool. We just having
Yeah.
conversations, nothing too pressing. We just want to learn more about our guests. And you've done a great job of illustrating today. So, again, we definitely appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man.
Awesome. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.